number six on this one? Okay, yeah. Somebody asked about this one earlier today. Okay, there are two ways that you can do this. The pre-cal way to do this is to remember that if you have your magic hexagon that we covered, this was tangent, sine, cosine, cotangent, cosecant, and secant. So on this, the magic hexagon, the quotient identities are the ones around the edges. So looking at this, I know that starting at cotangent, if I go this direction, cotangent is equal to cosine divided by sine. And they gave me sine and cosine. So the cotangent of 30 degrees is the cosine, which is the square root of 3 over 2. I should do this over here where there's more room. It's the cosine, which is the square root of 3 over 2 over sine, which is 1/2. So that's cotangent is equal to cosine divided by sine. So then if I take the reciprocal and multiply, I multiply by the 2 over the 1, the 2's cancel. So my answer is the square root of 3. My handwriting's terrible. The other way that you could do this is the geometry way with your SOHCAHTOA. If I say that this is 30 degrees, this is my 30-degree angle here. I know that sine, which is opposite over the hypotenuse, is 1 over 2. And cosine, which is adjacent over the hypotenuse, is square root of 3 over 2. And I also know that cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Tangent is the opposite over the adjacent, which is 1 over square root of 3. But the reciprocal of that means flip it over. And so then you would still get cotangent is equal to the square root of 3. So this is how you would have done it in geometry. This is learning these identities is how we would have done it in pre-cal. Either way, you get your final answer to be the square root of 3. It's supposed to be this. Square root of 3. Any others that you specifically want to see? Tim? Sure. So we have 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we learned all students take calculus, ASTC, all students take calculus. So all the trig functions are positive in quadrant 1. Sine and its reciprocal are positive in quadrant 2. Tangent and its reciprocal are positive in quadrant 3. And cosine and its reciprocal are positive in quadrant 4. So they said that sine is negative. So sine is negative in these 2 quadrants. And then they said cotangent is positive. Well, cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, and the only place that's positive is quadrant 3. So the answer then has to be quadrant 3. Let me show you something about your test. Where are you? Where's the L L missing on the name. Oh, it wasn't loading yet. The test has 25 questions. Oh, you can't see this. I should have put this up there instead of here. Actually, below the last question here is this. It just says spacer. It's just text. I've been using this formula chart so that when you're doing the problems with entities and stuff, the three identities are here. The law of sines and cosines is on there. Your unit circle is here. Page this like stuff. So if you're trying to find the equation of an ellipse or a hyperbola, or it tells you about how to find the focus and the directrix and the vertex and all that stuff, it tells you in this. So this is all about your conics. And then if you're trying to figure out from the general equation what kind of conic section it is, this is that little chart that tells you if this is equal to this, then it's a circle, and so on, from looking at the A and the C values. And then these are the formulas that you need for vector stuff. So if you've forgotten the formulas, we used to make you memorize these, but we don't now, but especially not this year. So just realize as you're going through on the actual exam, that this formula chart is down at the bottom below all the questions for you. So now, other question you want to see. Yeah. So, for example, science formula. So all of these things you have to plug in the numbers. Just know how to use the numbers to get the answers. These and then 2. So x is equal to 1. So then you circle when it equal 1. Tangent is sine over cosine. The only time it's equal to those two are equal. Positive, both negative. But it's 4. Where both sine and cosine are positive, both sine and cosine are negative. Pi, whatever, pi over 4. So then looking at your units, so the pi over 4 is here, and his pi over 4, then is 5 pi over 4. And then you choose the answer that matches. Something about this. The if it has multiple responses. So if I had 5 over 4 and pi over 4 as a choice here, you would have to check both of them in a multiple response question. In Canvas, if you do that and you choose an answer that is incorrect, it subtracts from the question. So if I went it's 5 over 4, if I checked this one as correct, I have the partial credit for that question. But then if I also checked incorrect, it subtracts the number of points, which wipes out the points I just got. And now these have canceled out and we get 0 points. This does not subtract off incorrectly for the responses. So if you're sure, if you have that correct, but you aren't sure if another one is correct, let's say, for example, maybe this had been pi over 4. D, you don't get the points, but you don't lose any points. Whereas if it were not correct and you checked it, you lose points. Does that make sense? Delta Math does the same, but it allows us as teachers to control it. How much credit you lose, or if you lose it, or anything else. Canvas does not give us any control. And the other weird thing is that if you check it's wrong, it'll take away points, but you don't points yet. And then you don't correct, take the, it has to do with the order that you answer questions in and what's correct and what's incorrect, which is all weird to me, but anyway, how it's been explained. So just be careful on multiple questions that you don't just get happy and things because you'll lose for the ones you did get correct. Other questions that you want to see. So what you're going to do here is you're going to go get a double angle formula, which I have my here. And this cosine to you. Cosine to has several different ways you do it. So the cosine of 2 is cosine squared u minus sine squared. Sorry. So they've given you sine and told you it is pi over 2 and pi. So I know that it's in here. So my triangle is going to be here. So between pi over 2 and pi, so it's in this quadrant. It tells us on which opposite of the hypotenuse these values. I think so. I think that's 24. Does anybody remember? I might have put 24. So sine is 20. That's hypotenuse. So 74 over 25 squared minus 7 over 25 squared. 20 squared. 5, 6. 25 squared is 25. 39 over 65. And 5 is 29. That's 29. 26. Right. But wait, well, this is negative, but square it doesn't matter because it's in that quadrant. But since we're dealing with all of them squared, it doesn't matter. Questions, other problems that you would like for me to work or explain? And the formula, this will have to draw it. So let's try to get 4 degrees. That's north 49. What's northwest? And so this is 49 degrees. And the other one is saying is traveling southwest to southwest. And probably the distance between them at noon. So then at 10, it's going to be twice. So the distance is times. So you have you're going to try to calculate this distance right here, the distance between them after 2 hours. So that you just have to do to find this. They can use sometimes as appropriate depending on what this angle is right here. So you just do your to figure out that angle. And then this will be 26, and this will be them, and then aside. So you can't use left signs. In this section, I gave you the terms and giving you the chart for what the formula is supposed to look like. The equation is x squared plus y squared squared. This center is at this origin. And so when you add 5, then you have 39 and 40 squared case of the and 39 and 7, so it's to be the next one is not the origin. So the center here, the center is actually 5, -7, and square root is 6. 6. So about how to find the formula chart, equation of list. So you know this how you sent the center to the directrix, you add to the vertex from the center to co-vertex. This is B. And your equation is action. So you know S over A plus Y squared. B squared equal. So it's 4. And then you square 2 squared. Where does it? So again, all for these are just on your chart. In the picture, you're told that 100 of the cable, you're trying to get the equation right here. Given all the different things. So just memorize. It'll go faster if you know them. You don't have a single thing, but doing that, the chart for how the A squared and squared to figure out to find somewhere else. You have to completely remember. Do you want me to rehab? So you have to combine the other side. So we have 27 squared net plus 55. And we're going to complete this, and then yes, another minus plus a blank. And then we've got to take this -2 to the other side. So you have 1 for the square. You have to write the square plus 2x. We have to write the negative 9 here, which gives me 1 plus 6, 94 equals 297. Complete where you always B or 2. B is the middle coefficient term. So 2 to 2, and square is, but this 1 is being multiplied 27. So we have to put 27. So then this becomes 27 times x plus 1 squared. And then it's here. 6 divided by 2 is 3 squared is 9 multiplied by -9, which is -1. So -1 side, and this part is plus 3 squared. 97 is 216. 216. What did I do? Subtract 8 minus 6. 216 plus 27. 2, 3, 4. So 2 here on this side. And in order for it, you can't leave these numbers in the front. So we have this equal to a 1. We got 243. So we have to divide everything by 2 for 3. And those are probably is x plus y so 9 minus. So then if I divide it by 9, I'm going to get minus was 3. Is that right? Let's see. 7 minus 243 divided by 7 equal to. So let's find the center and the vertices. So it's going to be -3. This is our H and K. So the center is at 1, -3. And then these, so my graph, I'm at -1, -3 here. And this is the square root of this, which is 3. So 2, 3 this direction, and 1 that direction. And those are going to be my vertices. So the y value is are 2. And this is negative 4. What's about that? Questions? Find a correction and some of the formula with these things. All these things, there's information on the formula chart. So you can use it while you're working. So if you're familiar with the chart, it's a review. All these have information with the chart. You can plug in the numbers in. What goes with. Just going back to degrees, radian. So you're starting degree. If you're going, you have to have pi, so you multiply over 180. So you'll have pi in the answer. Going from degrees don't have pi, so you're going to multiply those by 180 when you do math. This class or unit circle or both. Sometimes you can be either way. Use it or use it. So for questions like this, all you're doing here is creating a right triangle. And so I know this is, and so I just did it on that other problem, so I know this is a Pythagorean triple, so I know that's 25. It's asking sine. Sine is hypotenuse. And then so take this and I turn it, so that going all the way over to 360. It's odd. And it's there. Remember that this inverse hand also is argument. It's just different angle is this. So this is easier formulas, or you can different formulas. So you're either to simplify it, or you're using the Pythagorean identities to simplify. You're using all of this involves to get to the end. Remember to mention when it's such of these are equivalent, because in all of the answers will be equivalent. Figure out which one. Verify the identity. You need to be able to work with the left side only, and the left side is equal to, and correctly identify those steps. Not equal the should or from. If it's any right triangle, the angles have to add together to be 90. If this is that, this angle is 90. This angle, those you have to add to be 90. So this is 3, 4, 5. The side opposite of the hypotenuse is 3/5. That is the same as the cosine of 90 minus that edge. This angle is adjacent to this. This is always identity. So if I know that 2 and 8 are not to be, I don't know if there's a type. No, 40 to 48 to add 90, and 28 and 62. These two add. So the angles do, and I know that sine squared of 1, the cosine squared of 42 is equal to the sine squared of 48. The 42 and 8 are 90. This comes sine squared of 42, change this to the sine squared of 8. So now I know that the value of sine squared plus sine squared is 1. So because if this is 42, this is sine squared of 48, same thing as sine squared of 90 minus 48, the cofine identity. Well, minus 40 is 42. So this is the sine of 42. And I know that cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. So if I add together, so then the same is true here. The cosine squared of 28, the cosine squared of 62, same thing, sine squared minus 62, which is sine 28, cosine 28 is also equal, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So this is what we know about the right triangle. Anyone ask me to go over about that?